Let's get through with Graeme Souness, Karen Carney and Jamie Carragher before we leave you at 7:30 this evening. What a brilliant afternoon here, though. Temperatures rising across the capital, reached boiling points here at the bridge, where we've had a barnstorming London derby that finished 2-2.
Spicy, spiky, 4 goals. Did that game have the lot?
Yeah, it really did. Tough game, playing against a really good side. Like I said before, we knew it was going to be a tough battle. First half, we weren't good enough with and without the ball. But second half, I thought we come out, we pressed well, we got the goal. Disappointing, obviously, the way we considered the second, but we carried on fighting, we carried on pressing, and thankfully we got one at the end there.
What was the problem first half?
Yeah, just we was a bit late when we was pressing, and they're against good sides, they punish you. You know, we wanted to come and almost play man for man, and just a little bit late. If you're second late in these games, you get punished, and then with the ball, we don't really keep it as well as we know we can. So we had to adapt. Second half, we changed the formation a little bit, and it definitely worked out better in the second half.
Was their system frustrating you, particularly in that first period?
Yeah, no, they was getting into spaces, especially when they had us in the low block. It was hard to get any pressure on. They create kind of overloads on the wide areas. It was hard for Sessi, especially on that side, to press up to Reece. So we ended up getting camped in a little bit, and every time we won it back, they was kind of keeping us pressed. But like I said, I'm happy with the way we fought back, especially second half, and a really nice feeling to get that one at the end.
Is happy an understatement with the goal? The look on your face when you scored.
Yeah, I kind of flicked it, and then I couldn't really see where the ball went, and I just see the net rustling, and then obviously right in front of our away fans there. So especially after that chance I had earlier in the second half, it was nice to see that one go in.
Because of what's at stake today, it's so early in the season, but it's a Champions League place rival, and also you have to say the rivalry between these two sides, was it vital you came away with something?
I think it was a really important game for us, just to show where we are as a team. Of course, it's a marathon this season, not a sprint. We've got a long way to go with a World Cup in between. So, but I think it was important, especially after last season losing, I think 5 or 6 times to them in Cup and Premier League. So, away from home at Stamford Bridge hasn't been our best place over the years. So to come away with a point, especially at the end, it's a good feeling.
Both managers red card at the end of the game. Do you know what caused it to boil over? Did you even know that? No.
Obviously, I see everyone kind of gathering up at the end there, and obviously disappointing to see the red card. But I didn't see what happened. Obviously, it's an emotional game, London derby. The passion from both sides. Obviously, both teams wanting to win. So like I said, disappointed. But that's just sometimes what happens in these games.
Great stuff, Harry. Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Thank you.
Breathless Harry Kane and breathless Jamie Carragher, who's dashed here from the gantry as well. We asked Graeme and Karen to sum it up before we went to the break.
Something that I just said to Martin when the game finished, that the anniversary is tomorrow, 30 years of the Premier League, and it just never ceases to amaze you, and we're just lucky that we've got this league now. I know before the Premier League came, we used to look at other leagues at Serie A at the time. You went there, Graeme, in the 80s, and that was seen as the league at the time. All the best players went there, but whether we've got the best teams, Real Madrid are obviously dominant, and Barcelona at different times, but in terms of product and week in, week out and things that happen, that's why it's such a huge success story, not just in this country but around the world, for games like that.
Remember the questions we were asking right at the start today about what we're going to learn from this? Anything?
Well, again, exactly what we said. Chelsea needed a number 9, and the subs that have really helped the squad depth that's really put Spurs back in this game and the fight. And I think you saw at the end, whether we don't necessarily agree with all that aggro at the end, but it happened, and that's because...
Speak for yourself.
but Conte is trying to bring that intimidation factor. His recruitments have been all 6-foot players, trying to add that, and I think that's what we've seen from this Spurs side today. They never gave up.
I think referees are letting a lot more go, and it makes for a far better watch. We've all played the game. When you see simulation, people throw themselves to the ground. I've not seen that in the 2 games today. It's a man's game all of a sudden again. And the referee, I thought, had a fabulous game, other than something we'll point out later. But I thoroughly enjoyed both games today. The if there is such a thing as a purist who watches football, might get a wee bit excited themselves when the two managers are getting upset with each other. But I'm sorry, it's professional sport. That's what it's all about. You want to win so much. Sometimes you can let go of your emotions and embarrass yourself.
It's a man's game, but as Karen points out, it's also a woman's game as well. We saw the former Chelsea captain make a few tackles in a time.
Yeah.
She would have enjoyed it out there, that's for sure. In terms of the way this game sort of panned out, we saw Chelsea dominant in that first half. Why do you think it changed in the second? Or did it?
I think Richarlison made a difference. He really did. You know, they changed the system, went to a sort of a back four, two right up front, and he just provided energy. I mean, I think Graeme said at half time, and I mentioned through the first half, it looked like Tottenham were playing in the sun. It was too hot. They couldn't get around the pitch.
They were saving themselves for the second half.
There was just no energy, no spark, and I was really surprised the changes didn't come at half time. Not necessarily changing of the system, but, you know, bringing a couple of players on. But I thought Richarlison made a huge difference in terms of just making runs in behind and providing energy that just Tottenham didn't seem to have.
I think he did, but you can't point to anything and say, "Oh, he did that really well."
No,
pass or dribble. He just run around with enthusiasm, wanted to be first to the ball.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the first goal. Seems a long time ago. Koulibaly with that incredible finish, and we had the conversation at half time about how a player of such stature from the set piece finds himself with so much space.
And again, they did the zonal marking. You see Koulibaly's highlighted there. He just steps in, still not picked him up, peels out, and that gives him the space then to run onto it. But no one's taking responsibility. Then no one, if you are going to zonal mark, you've got to go and attack those areas, and they didn't.
I think, can I just say, you said something, you know, Jamie is a defender. You've had coaches tell you what you should do. We're going to go zonal. But what you said, I think, start the second half, you've got to park that. If you see something that's screaming at you where someone's going to be free to do that, the zonal market, you just stop the ball ending up in the back of your net. And for me, there's a couple of culprits there. I think Son could have done more awareness, but he's a striker. The minute it goes over his head, he's on the way out. He's thinking I can get on the ball there and attack instead of dealing it right up to the end.
Before you get onto that, did his quality surprise you, Koulibaly, in that situation?
Yes, because watching the game there, he's a really good defender. He's strong and powerful. He's awkward on the ball. I didn't mention in comments, just watching little passes he was making at different times. He's not the most accomplished when he's on the ball. So seeing them finish like this was a surprise. I mean, the problem I have, and you see the position, he's in space, and at times when you're playing a zonal marking system, the odd player will find space. But the problem I have with that is that if you just stop it there, if it's possible. Now, we did zonal marking, and when you get given a job zonal marking, you know, the manager will say, your zone's there. But your zones will have to move considering where the opposition are. So if you look at Spurs at the near post, they've got 3 in the 6-yard box. Harry Kane's, well, I'm not sure who the 2 are by the near post. And then there's another one in the 6-yard box. So Conte or the coach has said, right, that's your zone. But if Chelsea don't put players in that zone, that means they're outnumbering you somewhere else. And that's where they're outnumbering 3 at the back post. So the zones, everyone has to go back 3 or 4 yards. And then someone will be closer to him. I heard the discussion at half time, and listen, I'm not totally against zonal marking. A lot of teams in the Premier League do it, but there's too many players at the front post for Spurs. If that whole system moves back 3 or 4 yards, Son will be on top of Koulibaly, and that's where leadership on the pitch.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's not just the manager gives the instruction, but the manager doesn't know. Conte doesn't know where the Chelsea players are going to stand. You don't know.
Jamie, they'll have the videos out of what Chelsea do. When they've got corners from that side, so they've positioned their men, overloaded the front of the front area, and then if you're a big player, you go, wait a minute, what's happening? He's got to look over his shoulder. One of them's got to say, wait a minute, I'm not needed here. But they don't. They take responsibility. That is what the coach told me to do. That's what I'm going to stick to do. You know, take responsibility, and that's what should have happened.
Yeah. Karen, we have a lot to unravel for the equaliser. There was a lot of complaint which caused some of the...
Not a wise thing
to do. Much more to talk about from that incredible game at Stamford Bridge. So, we have one more game left of the Premier League weekend. The results so far, the headline at Brentford. Today, after 23 years away from the City Ground, Premier League football came back to Nottingham Forest. It was a winning start, 1-0 against West Ham, and that incredible 2-2 we've just watched at Stamford Bridge. And of course, still to come your way, the Monday night football is Liverpool against Crystal Palace at Anfield. Just a couple of games in for most, 36 still to go. But as it stands, because of that late pegging back, not to 100% records for Chelsea or Tottenham anymore, so they are just City and Arsenal who have 6 out of 6. And at the other end, there are 4 teams yet to register a point, most notably the team in 20th. Manchester United. The team in 20th, Manchester United. Well, we all need a brief reprise after that because that was incredible. 90 snap.